you nervous when you started hearing that South Australia's border was about to be closed and two teams were leaving SA and heading away, given you were there 2 days ago?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly things are unfolding, and I don't think at this stage we have to go into quarantine or anything like that, or lockdown or anything. But it's the way it goes at the moment. It's I think the Crows and the Power are off to Melbourne, sort of ironically in a way now, and it's changing. So we've been pretty fortunate really over here that we've avoided quite a bit. So hopefully that stays that way, but hopefully we can keep playing each week, and hopefully the season can get through, because it's tough at the moment, tough for everyone, but we're trying to push on as everyone is.
Has the club indicated that you might be given a few more restrictions, like sort of what you had last year, or not at this stage?
Nothing as yet over here. I think the Melbourne teams have probably gone into a little bit of that at the moment, but we haven't heard anything. But the club's very, very good at keeping us up to date, and that'll be the same as always.
How wary are you of going into well-populated environments at the moment, given what's happened to Toby Green and Josh Duncan and Callum Mills and all the other guys who are isolating from just trying to live their lives?
Yeah, I think after that, hearing about that with the Giants and the Swans boys on the weekend, it sort of hits home a little bit more. And albeit there's probably not as many events going on in the world at the moment and in Australia, but it's probably a little bit of a lesson and a reminder for guys to perhaps avoid some of that. We still need to live our lives and live normal, healthy lifestyles, but avoiding those super busy places is probably the way to go at the moment, and otherwise you run the risk of not playing for a couple of weeks. So it's tough in a way for those guys, but totally understandable with sort of the devastating impact it's having in Australia at the moment.
Andrew, any injury concerns for you when out there at training, and were you just a little bit sore sort of walking in, or?
Oh no, this is pretty normal for me. Yeah, on the best of days I'm limping most of the time, so yeah, it's a normal sort of stiffness that we get week to week. A few boys on the weekend, I'm not too sure about how Luke's gone. Josh will be sort of touch and go, I think, for this week, hopefully get him back, but apart from that, we're all pretty good. The way the land at the moment, you see Dustin Martin's out for the season, and there's quite a lot of guys amongst all teams really that are sort of struggling a bit, so we've got to try and get our best team in the park as often as we can at the moment, which we haven't been able to, unfortunately, so far this year. But getting a few guys sort of back is really important, and it's about playing well at the later part of the year, which we've seen Richmond do so well for so many years.
What's the confidence level like? I mean, just talking to Luke, is he sort of confident they'll be back for the weekend, or is he pretty sore with that calf?
I'm not sure. He's pretty good at sort of hiding maybe his internal thoughts about everything, and to his credit, the way he acts on the field, and even when he was subbed out, was very positive as a leader, and you almost wouldn't know that he may or might not have done something, as we don't know from the weekend. So he's been a great leader for us, whether he's out there or not. He's important as ever, and we want him to play a few more games than he has this year, and he knows that more than anyone. But we're confident, whoever we've got, that we're going to play well.
And just speaking with Josh, he said that he might have to sort of, he's a bit more sort of touch and go. What are sort of the key things that he's kind of having to tick off before then, that from what you understand?
Probably was more the confidence side of things for JK. I think he's missed a couple this year, and it's what happens a bit when you get a little bit older, I feel. And I think he knows. I've never seen a guy play under as much duress in my career as him, and so I think with all that, he understands when his body is and isn't right to go. So in a way, sort of a little bit of a blessing that he's able to tell before games that he's not 100% right, and he doesn't let the team down, which he never has. But he doesn't play too many games where he doesn't feel like he can play his absolute best. So we think Jack and Oscar performed pretty well with Bailey Williams up forward on the weekend. So we hope to get Josh back, but if he isn't, we've got a lot of guys that are playing pretty well. Nathan Vardy as well on the waffle, so we're confident with all those guys.
There's been a lot of talk just over the last couple of weeks about you guys sort of not quite having the confidence that maybe what you've had sort of in the past. After playing that game against Adelaide, where do you sort of sit with that now? I mean, how much confidence do you take out of a game against Adelaide, considering where they sort of are on the ladder?
A little bit, yeah. When you lose 3 in a row, and I've been fortunate enough to be here for 11 years, and I don't think there's been too many times that we've lost 3 in a row. So, been very lucky in that sense. But sort of when it does happen, it feels sometimes a much bigger deal to everyone and to me than perhaps it might be. So having that sort of balance between sort of that gratitude of how lucky we all are, but also the reality that everyone needs to come to training and get better, and that's probably where we're at the moment. And whilst Adelaide aren't sort of in the top half of the ladder, they've been pretty competitive in most of their games recently. So they were competitive early in the year when we played them over here. Well, I think we only won by sort of 3 or 4 goals. So they got a good bunch of young guys, and for a half it was pretty close. So it was an important second half for us, and good that we can get a little bit of that confidence and that form back going into the last rounds ahead.
So might be talking about work rate. I think to us about the lack of work rate in the team over the past 2 weeks. You earned 16k on the weekend, which is a big number even for you. Were you trying to lead the way in that regard to make sure that you covered as much ground as possible as a way of encouraging others to do the same?
Yeah, I try to just be pretty normal. Yeah, I don't go out there to run any more or any less than other weeks. I try and do my bit in that respect. And yeah, it's amazing when you're not playing well, that kind of stuff gets highlighted, and it's probably you pick out sort of clips of vision that don't look great, but when you're winning, sometimes that stuff gets papered over a little bit. So we feel like we've got a fit group, just probably one a little bit down on confidence. So I've been playing a little bit as all sort of combined in a sort of 3 really poor performances those last 3 weeks. So we hope that the win on the weekend against Adelaide is a step in the right direction going forward against St Kilda and Collingwood these next 2 weeks against teams who are pretty competitive.
Have you been able to sort of maintain some consistency in your role, Andrew, or have you had to be a little bit more flexible with the ins and outs that you've had in that midfield?
Oh, it's been pretty consistent, yeah. I mean, subtle sort of changes here and there, and whilst we did have Yowie and Shuey out for sort of probably that first half of the year, we had a really good bunch of sort of secure guys that were sort of doing the same thing every week, and once you get those guns back, no doubt you sort of things have to change a little bit, but I think we've found a good balance on the weekend, and albeit with Connor West now in and Luke Edwards back in, there's a few extra guys to throw in the mix. So got that good blend of experience, but also young guys coming through that I think is important for our fans to see, and I think important for to give us all a bit of life. Sometimes you need a bit of life as older guys that have been around a long time. You need that spark of a Connor West playing his first game, Luke Edwards in his 4th or 5th game, and Nick in his milestone games. That kind of stuff sometimes can get you going a little bit more than sort of trying to avoid a 4th loss in a row or something like that. You try and find those little extra things to spur you on a little bit more.
The way Connor played, has he sort of proven to you straight away that he's a player that you can rely on in that inside contested role? Yeah,
and I think that was evident for me and a lot of us even before he played on the weekend. We've seen him for quite a few weeks in our Waffle side play exactly like that, albeit naturally at a lower level. He's spending the whole game on ball and getting his 30 touches every week, but he was sort of playing a bit of a hybrid role, and you could see from the intensity that he suits AFL footy, and I think he's going to contribute a really important facet of our play at the moment. And as I said, a bit of life and a bit of spark that perhaps we needed.
With the instability, I suppose you could say, the midfield with all the injuries you've had this year, you talk about the excitement of having those other guys in there. Does that take away oh my God, we've lost Red, and oh my God, we've lost Shuey, Kelly injured and stuff? Does that enthusiasm help to make you sort of almost overlook the fact that you can't get your best blokes in the park?
Yeah, definitely, and you want to win guys' first games, and you want to win in Nick's 200th. We've been pretty ordinary in milestone games for guys, I think, especially over the last couple of years. So it was really important for all of us to play well for Nick's 200th and Connor's first. And even just talking to Connor about how his experience was the whole weekend, going over to Adelaide, having his family, and I think a few friends are over as well, and him just being so pumped about playing his first game and an away game over in Adelaide, obviously just sort of, I guess, triggers guys' memories of while we play footy, and guys that have been around a while. It sort of, as I said, sort of triggers that memory of why you play footy, and sometimes when you lose 3 in a row, it's sometimes sort of hard to remember that stuff sometimes.
how difficult has the instability with the injuries been? Because you haven't been able to get your best midfield out there week in, week out. It's constantly changing. Has that been difficult for everyone to adjust to with your roles?
Yeah, I think a little bit of instability, but also instability in just our performance has been so up and down, and we've had some really good wins against some really good opposition, and then some really poor losses, big losses. So, been a bit of a mental roller coaster for us this year, but hopefully we can start sort of peaking and building that consistency towards this back end. And you never know. As I said before, Richmond have been the best team in the last 4 or 5 years at peaking at the right time. They haven't been the best team at the halfway mark, or even probably the 3/4 of the way through the home and away season mark. They've been the best team at the end of the home and away, and the next 4 or 5 weeks after that.
So that's the second reference Richmond now. Like, so has there been a bit of a focus on they got their best players fit and healthy rather than pushing them through when they were sore, and then they were able to play well in September?
Oh, look, we haven't spoken about sort of injuries and getting guys back at the right times. It's more that we are where we are at the moment for a bit of inconsistency, but also some good performances. But if we can perform well these next 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to give everyone a lot of confidence going into September and beyond, hopefully.
Have you watched much of St Kilda and sort of general thoughts on what to expect with them?
They've been really good the last few weeks. Yep, they touched Brisbane up a couple of weeks ago, and they almost got over Port Adelaide last week. So, and I think we're all pretty obvious of how well they played against us in sort of round 3 or 4 this year when they were under the pump. So, under no illusions that it's going to be tough. They've got a lot of good, strong guys in midfield. Steele, Dunstan, Ross, those guys, Crouch, that have been around a long period of time, that are quality players. So we need to play well in there, but we know they've got a good ratio with Ryder and Marshall playing. So those guys, they don't lose too many games with those guys playing. So we feel Nick's obviously as good as anyone, but we need to help him out, and we all need to play well like we did last week.
Has Nick been talking much about going sort of head-to-head with Paddy?
No, not really. We haven't really touched on St Kilda just yet. I'm sure we will tomorrow. But they're probably 2 of the most consistent quality ruckmen over probably the last 10 years, really. Ryder's obviously probably a little bit older than Nick, but 2 guys that can really hit it anywhere. And I'm sure it'll be interesting for the neutral spectator to watch 2 guys that have probably the best ruck work in the comp.
Just one more on the restrictions and stuff. It's different this year than what it was last year. You've got a lot more freedom. Has it been a lot more enjoyable for everyone to be able to live their lives compared to what you were able to do last year? Oh,
definitely. Yeah, you notice that. Whether that changes or not, we'll soon find out. But I mean, it's different over in WA. We've been very lucky. We've had a couple of lockdowns, but we're lucky that we can live. We can do anything really within reason. But in the hub last year, some guys reacted better than others, but just to be at home sort of every week, and yes, we travel every second week, but to be back in your bed, to be around your more familiar surroundings has been really important for, I guess, the mental health of guys. I'm sure Freo are the same as well, so hopefully that can still continue, but if it doesn't, we're ready to go and happy with whatever happens.
For someone who missed the 2018 grand final, are you concerned the premiership window is closing on this current list, or do you think the opportunity is still there?
Definitely still there. Yep, we've got quality guys that have been quality for a long period of time, and I think the fans saw on the weekend we've got quite a few young guys that they're keen for their first premiership as well. So we've been a team that's, as I said earlier, I've been here 11 years and we've played finals most years, and we have high expectations on ourselves, and I'm sure the guys that have already won one, they're keen for a second one as well. So I think the main thing is we've got a good blend of young and experienced guys that are still playing good footy, and I don't see why that there's no talk of premiership window closing, no.
Just talking quickly about the players that weren't able to play because of attending sort of the big event, has that been like a formal conversation that you guys have had as far as just being a little bit warier of what it is that you're attending, or is it just something that you sort of on an individual basis go, oh, actually, now that I've seen that, I'm going to be a little bit more vigilant as to what it is that I pick and choose and attend?
Yeah, we haven't had an official sort of chat from anyone as yet. I mean, that might change probably tomorrow with everything obviously happening in SA at the moment, but I think it should be pretty obvious for guys what they can and can't do. And as I said, there's not too many events going on, but just be smart about, I guess, the busy scenarios over here, and because in the end you could miss 1 or 2 weeks and at an important part of the year. It'd be interesting to see what happens in finals time if it's still going, whether sort of teams or whatever sort of all locked down, even if you don't sort of need to, just avoiding that risk. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Yep, food bank. So this weekend, trying to get 1 million meals to provide to those in need around Western Australia. So $10 donation provides 20 meals. So hoping to get 1 million meals, and that'd be really important for hopefully WA to get around and support those. It's obviously a tough time for everyone at the moment, but if we can help and provide food on the table for all West Australians, that'd be really important. So encourage everyone to dig deep and to donate $10.